Warm welcome to one and all. My name is Himika and I represent ViewSonic India. I'm the EdTech lead here. Lately, we have observed a lot of changes in the education industry, and hence it becomes a need of an hour to update ourselves with the changing trends and upcoming technologies. I take pride to share that most of the teachers these days find it interesting, relevant, and important to update themselves. So today, I would like to welcome Shruti Nagar Dave, who is a school leadership coach, and she has experience of delivering, intellectual content to schools and has been working with teachers closely. I welcome you, Shruti.
Thank you, Hamika. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
So, it's a pleasure to have you in our session, Shruti. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hamika. Likewise.
Yeah. So today we would like to know from Shruti Nagar how she has, observed the changing trends and how, according to her, we can see a change or a revolution in the industry, education industry, and an important software called myViewBoard. So over to you, Shruti.
Thank you so much. Warm welcome to everyone, and thanks, Hamika, for the nice welcome to all of us. I see a lot of known faces as well, and those I don't, we can interact further. So if you're comfortable, you can switch on your videos, and I'm sure you're kind of doing something of your own. It's okay to keep interacting in case you have anything. Hi, Asta, good to see you.
Hi, Shruti. Hi.
Great.
Good to see you again, in fact.
No problem. It's a pleasure to see you again. So thank you for joining in on the short notice. Like, I know that many of you saw the post and, chose to be part of it. So just for your knowledge that myViewBoard is going to be organizing certain webinars on and off on different topics, which supports educators and, the industry's trends, or maybe in terms of kind of shift that's taking place. And we are all confused, like what sort of tools, technology work well, educating parents, and considering the needs that we see in education. So stay tuned on the page so that you can be updated with what's coming up next. So I would like to begin first with a small question that you guys must have seen the topic, which says that educators' role in innovative practices in classroom. I know some of you are in early years, some of you are working with the primary section. So if I invite you all to drop in chat box, if you can answer, feel free to type if you're not comfortable in the audio. The question here is, how do you relate with innovation? What is your relationship with innovation? So as an educator or a center head or a school leader, whatever roles you play, curriculum developers, so how do you see and perceive innovation in your domain? So why don't you just drop in maybe a word, it's okay. So we'll give you a couple of minutes. Thinking in relevance, okay. All right, so innovation is thinking in relevance. That's that is how you perceive innovation. Excellent. I think I like this very much. Any more person like Sakshi and Prithima? I think it's Prithima. If you're active, drop in the chat, please. So this is not a lecture mode. Of course, the webinars are more interactive because it's for you to take a lot of value. And the value is not in listening, it's more into exchanging information, because you might know some beautiful stuff, which we'll have a cohort together. New ideas. Prithima says it's innovation means new ideas. All right. I would want some of you to write. Shruti, Jan, Shruti, if you want to add in. So I repeat, I think there are new people who join. We are talking about how do you perceive innovation? So how do you perceive innovation? Just drop in your comments in the chat box. Okay, Shruti says innovative techniques to engage children. All right, fair enough. Great. So on this note, I would like to share my screen, and I've created some kind of creatives, not a presentation because presentations outdated now. We have to look forward what's in. All right. So I'm going to be talking about, all right. So we spoke about what are your thoughts about innovation? And I think beautifully said, thinking in relevance. Relevance is one of my favorite words, because as an educator in the industry now, one thing which is definitely missing is teaching children in terms of relevance. Like sometimes I know some of you must be facing this on and off, is that we adults teach children the way we think we should teach, or maybe we think, all right, this is how the best method could be for X child, or the whole classroom. However, the relevance is the idea of understanding what is the need of the children. All right, and how do we know their needs is to be closely observing the generations, the trends, the idea of how do they respond to materials, environment, and people. So how we respond to certain things will be different than the lower generation responding to the same. So how much are we on our toes as an educator to record every aspect of observation in the classroom, or maybe anecdotal conversations that you might have with children, and that can help you design the curriculum or the classroom implementation relevantly for those children. So it's very critical for us to understand how much are we relevant to our children. So you're dealing with grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, nursery. You cannot have one way, one fit all, one fit for all. You got to have differentiation in classroom. Of course, when we say this, it sounds good in listening. It sounds really nice. Yeah, it's good to have situation. And to do it, to implement it, there are challenges that every educator faces. Imagine you have classroom full of 30 children, and now you're talking about differentiation. So the amount of preparation and the homework that educators and the team needs to make is consistently happening in the background. If we miss out on that preparation includes talking to parents, having child details, looking at the observation of the past classrooms, previous classrooms, and then talking with your colleagues, like educators who are teaching other subjects, and learning about the child. Now, this homework is, I'm not sure if you can show me a thumbs up. How many of you do that? Or how many of you have seen it happening in the classroom? All right, great. This is good stuff. Okay. So great. So I think that gives us a great light to move ahead with what we want to talk about. What are the current impact that is going on? Now, I would just stop my screen and quickly go through discussing about the shift that we have seen. After COVID hit, or the pandemic, we've got one cause, we got one reason why there is certain shift required in education. However, education requires transformation since like more than 20-25 years. If I talk to somebody who's 20 years older to me, that person is also talking the same stuff, that, hey, we need transformation in education. And we keep saying that all the time, but what transformation are we looking at? So basically, I had to come with something so that we have something to talk today. So I think I came to this conclusion, or maybe an inquiry, let's not conclude, but an inquiry, that to be able to be matched to the generation we are nurturing at or any point in time, two or three things that we need to
Shruti, your voice is lagging.
One, upgrading. All right, I'll just switch off my video. Does it help now?
Yes, now it's clear.
Yeah.
But we missed the last point.
Okay. Thank you. So I was sharing that in this fight of what transformation are we looking at, we had to come up with something that pushes us to inquire about something, which was, there are 2 or 3 key aspects that we need to keep in mind when we talk about transformation. So first, we can transform if we consistently put efforts in being relevant. Second, as an educators, we investing our time, our money in our own education. So if I'm a parent, I'm an educator, if I'm not investing in my own education to be able to nurture my child or my classroom, I will miss out on the aspect of matching up with what their actual needs are. So most of the times adults will look from the frame of timeline they are in, and not coming from that's okay, Asta, got that. Not coming from what children need. So this is where we require innovation. Now, innovation is such a cliched word that we all keep listening, about all the time. Innovation in terms of technology, innovation in terms of resources, innovation in terms of methodology. So I remember last 2 years we've been evolving so much in schools that we have given up the traditional aspect and looked forward the inquiry approach or the project based learning, or there are different learning methodology we've imbibed in the classroom and integrated with what we have. Now this is making us definitely evolve. However, because we are doing bits and bits, bits of everything, in fact, we are missing out on the impact that is hitting the learners. So what happens if something new comes up, trends in the market, we pick it up and we evolve. So there is one critical aspect that we have to understand is when we talk about any sort of innovation in our system or school or home, we got to understand, is it serving the learner's need? Innovation only works or is effective if it is supports the learner's need. Now, I had jotted down some of the points which impacted recently, and we all have seen sudden shifts in the schooling. So one was the online classroom. Even if there were like preschools or even early years, wherein we were very adamant about not giving screen times or keeping them off the screen and technology and tabs, we had to shift to online because somewhere or the other the children were missing out on the learning anyway. So just for the sake of a video based or say peer-to-peer interaction, which was really important for children up till 6-7 years, wherein they're just starting to explore the world out through schools. Some of them even didn't know what schools look like, and they were registered but they never went to school, right? So this was another shift which even the parents and educators took back, that okay, we don't know what to do now. We were not ready for this. Suddenly, when we have the online classroom, parents' involvement increased, be it helping them do the assignments or being part or listening to the classrooms that are conducted by schools, and having interaction with teachers in a way of session wise, like earlier it used to be that there is a PTM or there's this weekly newsletter that comes to you. Now when the children were at home, parents were aware what's happening every day in the session, and the involvement shifted. Thirdly, limiting resources. So we worked a lot on school environment, like what sort of learning area do we need in our classroom, which learning intellect or the domain will be served with certain classroom level or areas in the classroom which were impacted. Now the children were at home. Now all that they were to do was to see what's available in their houses, and or maybe sourcing it out from the shops, and we were all confused, okay, what works more? And that shift also we were not ready. The fourth point was there's a lot of increase in self-paced learning hours. Like earlier, earlier there were like children were having instruction-based classroom, and they were like willing to look at teachers and talk to them and do a course together, talk about something together. Now when teachers were limiting their own time because they were also at their home, so educators together also face personal and professional timeline shifts, and that made them give a lot of self-paced learning time. So maybe we started including applications which were game based or learning based, or there was this G Suite or different platforms searched for online, jahan pe there could be a classroom led. Even in preschools, if I look at early, there was a lot of resistance in accepting the technology or accepting online sessions. They would have said that, okay, COVID is just a matter of a year or maybe 2 years. Let's wait. Let's not put them to school. It's okay. And we went to the second year and the third. Now parents and schools wonder that if schools are not happening, there's a lot of things that are missing. And school ka ek important aspect hai. This debate can go on and on, like in different platforms. But one point that makes an edge over having a learning space is the learning environment. No matter how much you try setting up that environment at home, there is a difference in setting up the learning environment, how it is in school. Fifth point was alternative learning tools were, so you have seen that a lot of boxes, learning boxes were created, and parents wanted to buy everything that's possible or talk about it so that the children at home or students at home are not missing out on the learning spaces. So of course, and the worst unhighlighted, or I would say untouched area was educators' lifestyle. So I wondered why there was this always a notion that, hey, not all educators are technologically savvy. They struggle a lot. But I wonder if the educators are of my age, or say between 20-30, they might not face that. But there's this notion that stops them to even be courageous enough to attempt something to do it. So technology is a tool that anyone can learn at any point of time. There are smartphones available in remote locations these days. People are using different social platforms. So it won't be that hard to use any platform for educators. But because of this notion and resistance from the whole system, we or the people who were responsible, resisted the opportunity a teacher might have or educator might have to explore a lot of tools. Ab hua kya, that as an educator, I had like 10 tools to look at, and a little bit in here and there, and the effectiveness of the session or effectiveness of the learning got dropped. And so what I'm saying this on base is based on my interaction with teachers earlier, and of course I've been working with them. So empathetically also I did learn about this situation. But now when things are changing, we see that every educator has the laptop with her or a tab with her, and then or he or she is able to kind of create resources by themselves, and there are different resources already available. So it's becoming a lot of open structure, open source for a lot of the entire education community to come together, and with one motto that learning is continuous and it must not stop. Lastly, the school readiness. Even if it had to like close or reopen, both situations, they were never ready. We are never ready in that manner because we're still looking and waiting for a validation of, hey, it's time to start the school. And then you see a news that there are certain cases increasing, and again the things that, so there is again a fear. So if we depend on a lot of these stuff to let education be effective, I think we'll miss out on a lot of learning and developmental years that the children are going through. So we now come next to the challenges faced by educators. So what are the challenges that educators do face? And I would invite you to write in the chat before I show my points, so that I know we both, so all of us are in sync. Okay, I have few chats to say. Innovation is practical implementation that help in development. Innovation is new opening for new era. Excellent. All right. So the question here for you is, what do you think are the challenges for educators after the shift that has taken place in the classroom dynamics, be it online or offline or different resource wise? So why don't you just put in your thoughts? We got 30 seconds. I think I'll have to give a timer. You could write even a word. So if I talk about the challenges to give you some hint, so educators faced issues with the transition from missing on making sessions, interactive, excellent, upgrading and upskilling to the generation, yes, lack of professional development, hand holding when it comes to technical support. This is the powerful point I wanted to bring in. I think, okay, it's written by Terleen. Thank you, Terleen, for bringing this point. Like I said, the teachers were assumed either they know the technology or they don't. So even when I remember when the Zoom came into the picture and people were just, we had to just unmute certain participants and, raise hands and sort of instructions. We assume that people know. We assume and if you talk about high quality products or high quality services, even they guide you how to switch on and switch off, be it's being very easy, but it's never assumed. So the great product and service is only when, or an approach of a team is only when you don't assume people know. You got to come from a space as a general approach wherein you got to educate them. If you're coming up with something new, you got to take a demo with every aspect that they might need support. The teachers struggled. So out of nowhere, the internet got off and they were struggling to even communicate with the parents that, hey, we'll be joining right back. But if you do not have support, so educators were doing everything. I have seen teachers managing the calls from the parents to the classroom and handling children, and also the background, the technical teams coming up, hey, we got calls from parents, where is your session happening? So she's managing everything at that point. Now this is impacting the learning space, this is impacting the session, and the one job that teacher is supposed to do is deliver the learning to the learners in the session. And keeping that aside, there are different things managed at the same time. This was the biggest challenge in terms of assumption of this is okay and cool and this is very easy. So for instance, if I'm a chef, I know how to cook, and if somebody is never cooked and asks me, hey, how to make XYZ, and I said it's very simple, just put on the stove and put this and then done. But maybe somebody who's not seen it ever, or experiencing it for the first time, might have anxiety or might have disconnection with what they are expected to do. Lastly, gaps between management and teacher, of course. So management, teaching and management both play a very different role, and the idea or the gap comes when the expectations are crossed with each other. Like if you are focusing on, hey, having parents be happy about the session and how was the feedback and stuff, whereas the teachers are still struggling to understand the child, if they're the new batch or students, to be precise, that they need to understand what are my students like, what are the interests, and what is the learning outcome I must be focusing on. So yes, sab chhod ke, when the teachers had to kind of struggle in the admin job, that definitely was a biggest challenge. So like I said, nobody was ready and nobody will ever be ready. What we could do is understand where our role is and what we can do to make our job effective, and that's what we are going to discuss more about. So thank you for participating in the chat. And so here was certain challenges I wrote down. One was no transition, digital as well as classroom prep. There was like preparation missing a lot of time. You did not have, I believe educators require at least 3 to 4 hours of time to prepare every day. But when you talk about Zoom sessions, when it took place, I remember a case study wherein one teacher had to take about 5 Zoom sessions. So when do you plan? When do you prepare? That is also another session. So if you get any tools, if you get any support technically, or if you get any sort of support in terms of, say, software or something to put down things in, you need some assistance. So you definitely needed assistance as an educators. Thirdly was mental and physical health. It was definitely an impact and a challenge that every teacher might face. So when do you have your own time and you keep thinking about your students and you have your own family to take care, or yourself, your education, your anxiety about future jobs? So there are a lot of other issues that you dealt with. Physical health, of course, you sit on the screen all the time and see what happens to you. So there was no sort of a timeline that we were ready with. reading and study time was, like I said, for an educator to be relevant to the students that you deal with, you have to study, you have to read. So today when I'm talking about introducing blended classroom, or even about the challenges in innovation, I had to go through a lot of documents and talk to my friends about whether they have any document that I can read and refer, so that I can come up with something that, even if it is one thing that you take today, will be valuable. So my intention is that let's have one sort of impactful conversation that you can have and you can see how to implement. And when we meet next, we know that there has been some results over time. So that will be really helpful. The classroom dynamics totally change. There were blended learning happening also in terms of a physical space. Some parents sent children to school and some were online. So there was also a classroom dynamic shift that we saw, that there were few children on screen and few in the classroom. So imagine the level of educator's mindset, or how would she manage the whole dynamic where the learning requirements were totally different. Instructions and assessment. Now, instructions, like I know many curriculum developers work hard in scripting the lesson plans so that educators are supported well. Apart from that, there's this assessment tool. I wondered how would assessment take place online, because to have a rightful assessment in terms of, I'm not talking about formative assessment, but if you talk about other ways that we in the progressive sector look at, is observation. So observation, as an educator, you only have the screen or the window to observe, but there are a lot of inquiries set that you need to know where your students are, how much have they known, where are they starting from, and what is the next level. So for that, educators had faced a lot of challenge. Or maybe you can drop in the chat if there's any other challenge that you face in terms of instructions and assessment, or if ever you took support of any of the tools or technology, or your own manual work per se, and dropped in there. So please drop in the chat and we'll move on. Okay, so I know many of you know this, but just to create a base and the foundation to the introduction of blended and why we are retouching. I think 3-4 years back, I was looking at this whole concept, wherein the whole idea was different. The blended learning was totally different in terms of smart boards. There used to be smart boards in the classroom, wherein teachers were also taught and trained to use those pens and the stick and the remote and the mouse and the keyboard to run with the smart boards. I'm not sure how much was it successful, but of course we saw there was a lot of evolution in terms of the technology getting in the classroom. Earlier, when I was a teacher, when I taught the classroom, the innovation was totally different. It was more of craft, it was more of working with students, it was more of creative stuff. And now the concept of innovation is just not limiting to the manual work, but it says that, hey, you like it or not, the technology blends in the classroom is going to help somewhere or the other. How do you use it is your catch or your requirement need. So blended learning combines learning with online learning, in which students can impart control time, pace, and place of their own learning. So you see there are a lot of softwares or online portals that were shown, wherein students used to play quizzes with each other. They have a group and community wherein they share their homeworks and assignments. If there are parent group for early years, there used to be a space where they exchange their creative work that the students do. And that was because the self-paced learning was increased. The time in it was increased. Like abhi tak instruction was one of the mode, lecture was the other mode, working together in the classroom was the other mode. But how do you work when students are not seen, they're in the house and you got only 1 or 2 hours of the online? How do you engage them for the rest of the hours? This was the biggest question of every parent in the house, that we have our work at home, I don't know how to engage children. Teachers at the same time came up with a lot of worksheets, which were live worksheets, or a booklet that was sent home, or a box that was sent home, maybe the community that were built by the schools. But you can rate, like, this is an interesting thing to talk about. What do you think? How do you rate the self-paced or the blends that happened recently from 1 to 5? Okay, Sakshi has a point. There is a huge challenge in recording the development of the child online, as teachers are not physically present, so they are bound and cannot ask and support children and give more attention. They have to ask for recorded videos for activities so that they can observe and assess. So of course, recording and observing the videos of the classrooms and then assessing and versus the live assessment has a huge impact. And I definitely know, that's what I said, that we wonder how our assessment taking place, especially in early years, because therein the main key, like the key aspect of or key tool to assess is the observation, to maintain the anecdotal observation by the teacher live in the session, and based on that they kind of mark the development. And now that they don't see, even if you have you seen the classrooms, everyone, like I'm sure people have witnessed the classrooms that happen online. You see, there was a struggle also to call out children to speak for the first time. They were not so confident, and some worst things that we have observed would be that if one student talks and the parent, the child who is not talking, and the parent would force or probe answers that, hey, why don't you speak, see, look, that child is, or that student's answering, why don't you just say it out loud? And if the child is not talking or student doesn't speak, the parent would interrupt and say, ma'am, he has an answer. Now what does this show? That parent were also kind of anxious about, why am I not? And then there was this conclusion that my child doesn't speak, let's take him to the specialist or a counselor. But it is not that the child doesn't speak or the student doesn't speak. Maybe the whole environment was different, and some children take time to sink in. So the patient's level of us being result oriented was really getting, we have one comment, classroom was boring. All right, like I think Hemika also wrote earlier that there was a challenge in making classrooms interactive, and hence just many children who were who like to be doing something at the same time were asked to sit on the screen. They got bored, and they maybe if there was a concept taught, they are done and they're out. They want to do something else. So managing the differentiation of the learners was a biggest challenge, of course, at that point. Now coming back to the blend, we are going to talk about, if you have ever used any tools or technology or any platform that supported you conducting the online classes. So why don't you drop in some names or any platform you've used before, to name a few. That, so if you're using Google Classroom, example, Microsoft, okay, you use Zoom, WebEx, Zoom and Wiseman. Okay, what else? Only three? Anybody else? Or discovered any tools wherein it could support educators conduct the classroom? Google Meet, OneDrive. All right. Any other? Anyone? MS Teams, Google Earth. Okay. All right. All right. Now that these tools that you've mentioned definitely supports conduct the class, but there are certain tools which also help you organize the classroom as well. To organize, you need students' name, see how much how much engaged are they, your content to be floating like at the same time going to the same whiteboard. All right, interesting. So whiteboard is another feature that could be part of the whole problem. The solution of the problem is that we got to have one stop solution for at least conducting the classroom, wherein teachers and educators can kind of see through entirely and manage their whole classroom online. So there have been a lot of portals, even I've used earlier. Somewhere or the other, there's one or two features that gets missed and you kind of shift. So I ended up using kind of 10 to 20 sort of, I use Kahoot, I use a lot of other tools to kind of make it engaging. There was this live worksheet, which I know Sakshi also, she discovered it. Like, we came up with a worksheet wherein at least children are feeling engaged when they touch and when they do something, because there was no other way to make them engage. So thank you so much for again mentioning the name. So here are certain tips to understanding before we go to the tool. How do we make the blended learning classroom, be it early years or a K8? I'm focusing on the idea of K8 because that's where the most experiments and the most learning differences are seen, and there's a lot of opportunity in using. So before we get stuck into the idea of resistance of the schools used to be this, it was better earlier. So guys, first thing, we're never going back. We are never going back to those times. Nobody goes, we can never go back even like 10 a.m. today. So it's gone, it's done. So what we have in our hands is the coming hours, like what we have today to talk about, or what are we going to do with it. So if there are two options, one is to look at what's possible, or what are the focus area of learners, like how do we support learners, and the other is being in anxiety zone to see, okay, let this get off and we're going to be back to normal. And the classrooms are good when they are with chalk and board, it's easier. So those are the things that we might be in, but that will only give you upsets, that will only give you discouragement, because you are not going to meet your goal. So our mutual or the common goal of educators or school community, education community, is to support learners as best as possible. And I also understand that there are a lot of commercialized aspect of education these days. So you name any ed tech, everybody wants to be in it because it's an opportunity, but we're not talking about that. So don't get driven inside it. Never use any technology and then fit in the classroom. Rather, look at what learners and classroom needs and then find that appropriate technology. I think that should be the way, because the downfall will be that if you pick, or if a school buys a software and then they end up fixing and fitting everything in because they've already purchased. If you purchase Zoom webinar or Zoom classroom, you will fit in, but teacher might be tired saying that this is not serving my needs, this is not serving learners' needs, but then you're fitting that. That's the incorrect and the reverse approach. We are talking about more of what do you need, list that down. How do you be at both places, being relevant, using technology or not using technology, but being serving in serving zone with learners. If you think that there are 30 students with you, 10 of them require your personal attention, they need more of your time, they need more of manual approach to be considered, do that. If you think that there are students who are really quick, who require different modes of engagement, technology plays beautiful role in it. So here are the tips to shift. If you already shifted, great, you can check box that, hey, you've done, and congratulate yourself. But if you haven't, this is how certain tips that I've compiled for you, so that you can work and see if there is any difference in your classroom that you can see for. So redefine your role in the classroom. So you're not just delivering the session. I had lately came up with a concept called teacherpreneurs. I really was fascinated with this idea, and I kind of started talking to teachers about, why don't you be you? I did not like the idea of suppressing educators in schools, because I've seen there's a lot of assumptions of what they do and what they cannot do and stuff. But I know there are teachers who are just not here for the sake of jobs. They are here because they love teaching. They're here because they kind of feel for the whole industry. So education is different. Education industry is different. So coming to education, we all are here with a common objective of serving learners, and serving learners is simply what is the learner's need, and we sourcing it out to fulfill that. That gives you development, period. I think this is how our approach has to be. Our role is little entrepreneurial here. You got to be demanding, you got to be understanding what is the right, versus you are told what to do, what is to be used, and this is what it is. No, but the demand and the idea of researching is added to our roles now. So educators being the educators who are self-researched and studied, and they know that they what they need, are more kind of in peace when you talk about classroom delivery. Otherwise, you're just fixing certain things and just patching it here and there for the sake of delivering what the outcome is desired. So one is redefining your role, that you have to got this entrepreneur spirit wherein you know what is your job, you know where you get the resources, you know that where you can collaborate with, you need to know who to network with, so that you can also talk to the same great teacher in different school to collaborate, to ask for different innovative ideas. This is something which is not a common practice, or if it is, in certain ways it's really adding on to the quality of the education that we see. Second was start with a description of curriculum. So this blended aspect is that we invite students to be partnering with you. They are the co-leaders, they are the co-inquirers with you, so that you define, hey, this is the outline we want to work on, or this is the inquiry. Although in the background, you know, you've defined, I've written that you define and determine the learning outcome, so that you're not distracted while the inquiry goes on. Because when you map the inquiry, you could go A to Z, and there are immense path that a student might take, because every student might have their own zone of inquiry. But as an educator, when you define the learning outcome already, you know how to drive them. You're not instructing, but driving them. I think most of you do it, and that's a wonderful way to do it. So choose a blended learning model. So you want to choose any model you would like. You could either go with half the screen, or have the portals that you use, or maybe you want to add some assessment online, or you want to send in some projects that are online. You can go blended that way, or you can have everything in your seated, and you can go step by step. You can have once in a week or twice in a week. So depending on your readiness of transiting from the classroom you are in to the blended, you can pick your step, you can pick your path. Explore different teaching methods. I know we've been studying about lakhs of teaching methods, and I think teaching methods will never end, because every new child, every new student comes with their own learning tendency, pace, and capacity. So every educator is never done. He has to know how much and what way the child or the student interests are, and how do you want to kind of support them, or being up to the mark with the child's or students' learning needs. So that's quite differentiated. Next was that use the right technology tools. Like I said, that there are so many tools available. You can एक idea होता है that we choose those with free subscriptions. एक ये method है that whatever is free, we want to take that, because it's at least we're doing technology and there's something happening. But trust me, that will have a lot of impact in your experience, in your effectiveness of delivering, unless it is supporting what you need. So use a rightful way, take a lot of demos, understand what the software objective is. So if there is a platform wherein the objective is to support students, and you're looking for more spaces for educators role, you'll miss out on that. So there are different ideologies or objectives the portals are made for. So you need to understand which one suits you, which one suits your requirements and needs, and then you kind of experience it and then choose for your classroom. Most importantly, I think we've passed competition. It's time to look at collaboration. Collaboration is just not about adults collaborating in terms of, or the peer collaboration. It's about collaborating with the ideas, the vision. So there are several schools around. I wonder if everyone has the same vision. They all could go together. They all could be successful in their own way, but grow together. But because we are into the whole insecurity aspect or the competitiveness that takes place, we kind of cut through a lot of opportunities to grow together. So if we educators have this mindset of collaboration with, say, any companies or other co-teachers or parents, any community, so bringing the community as a collaborative spirit will definitely support learners more than anything else. I want to introduce you now with a portal which I came across lately, and I wanted to share this through this webinar. So now that we've spoken about the blended shift, and of course, in the next webinars, invite your friends, invite educators who could not be today, because this is something only designed for educators. And this initiative is to provide you 1 hour of upgrading upskilling, and different resources which you don't have to work for. And also drop in a lot of thoughts or comment on the page, my view board, wherein you will be interested to know more. So maybe we can pick those topics to support you lately in future. So what I want you to do after this webinar, this software called all right, is I'm going to show you the whole screen. It works on Android for now. So if you have Android, you can download the app and give it a try, explore how it looks like to you, and see if your needs are getting met. So my view board has the entire view board of the classroom, wherein you have your classroom setup. So you click on your classroom. I really like the whole portal because it's very it's understandable. You don't, there are school leaders also in this, so you can use this for your own school. Like if you are running a center, have that part of your center and try out with 1 or 2 educators, and or maybe 1 educators to try out for their classroom. So you'll see how it can take place. So this is the dashboard wherein you can see the students' names. There's this huddle. So there are 2 modes in it. One is the lecture mode and the other is the huddle. So you can also set up the time for entire discussion, entire huddle sessions, and you can have the status seen here. You can see my screen, right, guys?
Yes, we can see your
Okay.
screen, ma'am.
Okay. And other aspect, I'll just show what are the features up, keeping in mind the time frame. But definitely, guys, after this webinar, do download this and see how it looks like, and get back to us if there's anything like on maybe through LinkedIn or Himika's here ViewSonic page. You can just drop in and connect.
Or
My
I'll
internet.
share the links post the session.
Yeah, okay. Himika, would you want to share more about my view board? You can add on. I'm just showing the features and then I'll pass it on to you. All right. So whiteboard, somebody mentioned that whiteboard. I enjoy whiteboard because whiteboard, we play a lot of academic games like Pictionary and, you know, the quizzes and the tic-tacs and a lot of games that children enjoy as a filler. The idea of you can add on the clips and when you talk about making sessions engaging, sessions can be also engaging by adding some movie clips or some real life stories that you can have, which connects you with the concept. So if I want to talk about dams or the waters or resources or natural resources, it would be beautiful to incorporate a lot of videos which are real time, not from the discovery place, but you can also get it short or connect with different resources and which are already available. There are open files available, so make sure there's this credit given and there's no copyright issue, but then you can link it through. You can put in your documents, your PDFs, presentations, resources, worksheets for your classroom to let pursue for the day. So you can also schedule that, and there are a lot of things in it which Himika will explain because I'm using the whole browser format. But when you go with the app, there's a lot of it's easy way to use it, so don't worry about the screen. This is my view on my screen, but the app will have more easier way to do it. So please do share your thoughts once you do it. I'm just going to stop my screen. Whiteboard, you guys know, I like the idea of the whole classroom because when a teacher is reading, you got to see whether all the children are on the same page or not, who's doing what, who's active. Because if I talk about Zoom sessions, the half time used to go, are you there, then children took best time teasing teachers a lot. So I know there were stories as well, but yeah, this might help to track the learners where they are.
So to add on to this, Shruti, if you can just share your screen, I'll add on to what you were saying.
Yeah.
So to add on to this, as you can see, there's huddle here. So huddle is basically dividing your entire class into different groups. For instance, I have 30 students in my class. I have this opportunity to divide them into multiple groups, shuffle them according to my preference, or it can be a random shuffle. Right, as Shruti mentioned here, I can give them some tasks. So students with connection issues, that would reflect here. So many times we have observed that some of the students, to escape the class or to, in case they do not have answer to questions, they would simply say, ma'am, network issue. Right? So here, in case they genuinely have a network issue, that would start reflecting here through artificial intelligence. So the one as an educator, I would get to know who has a network issue and who is just trying to come up with excuses not to answer the questions. So I have an option to take a session here. So as an educator, you can see there's a camera here. I can turn on my video, right? I can explain it to the students just like any other session. So it becomes interactive and engaging because all my students can view me, right? I cannot see my students right now, but as you can see, there is an option here where I can see students' name, students' identity here, and then I can shuffle it. Now, Shruti did mention about presentation mode, giving them some time to complete the task. So in case, for example, there's a topic that I want my kids, my learners to discuss, right? They have got some time to discuss, and after that, they would revert. So they can always write down their answer, they can revert their answer, they can collectively, it can be a kind of a group discussion, group collaborative answers, and they can present it here. So whatever they write, it would reflect on my screen. So it would help me to, in terms of taking the assessments. It would also help me to understand how participative my students are, right? So as a faculty, I have this opportunity to understand all the things that I can do I mean, I can teach, I can interact, I can ask them to work in groups, there can be peer study, there can be collaborative study, group study, and so on. And as a teacher, I have this, this opportunity to take charge of my class virtually as well. So that's the beauty of this classroom. And Shruti, if you can move back. Yeah. So Shruti has given us an insight about myViewBoard. So here it is myViewBoard. I'll quickly take you through how it looks like in terms of a software. Also would like to mention that there is something amazing called myViewBoard Originals. So if you can click here, Shruti, Originals. So here we have content that is very interactive and that we can use to teach to our students. So for example, I want to teach my students what is probably how many planets are there, or electric current, or it can be as simple as let's do laundry, right? So here, if I just open this, so there's a short video which is definitely interactive. If we can play this video once. Just like you can see here, it is interactive. So this is just for the kindergarten kids, just to know what all laundry looks like, how many colors are there, how can I segregate it based on colors, darkness, and all that. Likewise, as a faculty, as an educator, I have this opportunity to create my content as well as deliver the same. So right now we do have a lot of original content available on this platform, and it gives me immense pride to say that soon we are coming up with NCERT based map content for myViewBoard. So any teacher, for example, if I'm teaching forest or lifeline as a subject, which is a 5th grade chapter, science chapter, all I need to do is go to this platform, quickly see what it looks like, and in that 2 or 3 minutes of video, I will have access to all the information that probably I would like to share with my students. So here, as you can see, that there's content for different subjects, different grades, and so on. So this is one thing that I already have content with me. Another interesting feature is how I can create a new content, right? So Shruti, if you can stop your share once, I will share my screen.
Sure.
Yeah. So now I'll take you through this software called myViewBoard. myViewport works beautifully with Windows and Android version. And next month onwards, this version would be available for all the Apple users as well, right? So all the Apple users, I believe for this month, they have to manage with the online version. But soon from the next month, we have this platform available for Apple users as well. So this is how this platform looks like, right? I'll quickly sign in. As an educator, you would have to download this software from web, or in case you want to use the software on your mobile phone, you can do that as well. Now, how do we do that is you need to download it from Play Store and get started with it. So I have signed in here, and I will quickly take you to some of the most interesting features that teachers can use to create and deliver their content. So I think the most important tool that all the teachers use to train their students is a marker or a chalk. Similarly, for a whiteboard or an interactive board like this, an important tool that we have is a marker. So here I have a marker. So I can use this marker to write anything, teach any subject, annotate on my screen, and so on. So here, with this tool, I can choose any color of my choice. I can increase the width. For example, let me write high here, and so on. So I have this possibility of annotating on screen. And of course, down below, we have an eraser here. So if I have written something wrong, I can quickly erase that as well, right? So that's the first tool. Now to add on to this, I think one thing that I really appreciate here is, as a teacher, let's say I've used this entire board and now I need to clear it out and write more to teach more things to my students. But any point of time, if I want to refer to something that I have already discussed in the class, it gets difficult for me because I have already erased that content from my whiteboard. So here I have an opportunity to add multiple pages. So down below, you can see there's an option of add a page. So when I click here, I'm on page number 2. I can add as many pages as I want, depending on my needs. So any point of time, if I want to refer back to anything in particular, I have this option of doing that as well. Now, in case I want to change the background of this whiteboard to make it more interactive or to make it in a presentation mode, just like how we create a PPTs or to create an interactive content similar to what we have just seen, down below left hand side, there's an option of background management tool. So when I click here, you can see I have multiple options here to choose from. So I can change the background of my screen, right? I can do that. I have a lot of pre-installed templates available. I can choose from these templates. Also, if I'm let's say a maths teacher or a science teacher, so here I have a lot of templates available for me to choose from, which I can definitely choose. So here you can see there's a subject mentioned here. So when I click on this drop down menu, I have a lot of options to choose from, right? So these are the different options. So for example, I want to teach something related to geography. So I have a lot of geography related templates, right? So I have taken, let's say, I just want a basic one. It says you want to apply it to all of this page. I want to apply it to this page, and it's done. Now you can see the background has been changed. Now I can either annotate, I can write on my screen and say hello, or I can either use the text box and say, welcome to the webinar, right? So I can use either of these things. Another beautiful thing that I would like to share with you is I, as a teacher, can definitely import a lot of content here, right? So many times we have seen a lot of teachers, when they're referring to some textbooks, because that becomes the need of an hour, or I would say that's how teachers would like to take it forward, because they know that ultimately when kids go back home, they would be referring to their text or their books, etc. So I have this option of importing the data as well. So how do we do that is, here we have something called Magic Box. So when I click on Magic Box, I have this option of importing it from OneDrive. So it could be either from these drives that I have my data or from the system itself. So the files that are compatible are image, video, audio, PPT, doc file, PDF, .1, .txt, and so forth. So right now, I'll just quickly show you. I have my data in here. So these are some chapters that I have, right? Any chapter that you want to teach to your students, just simply drag and drop it here on the screen. Now, as you do that, you can see this PDF had 13 pages. If you want all the pages to be imported, click on all and get it imported. In case you want one particular page to be there on the screen, simply click on that. So right now I want page number 2, and then mention how would you want it. You want it in landscape or portrait? I want it in portrait, and you can see my chapter is here. Now, as a teacher, let me use the markers again. I want to highlight something important. Let me take a highlighter. Let's say as a teacher, I want to highlight the important thing which says the canal can be divided into various compartments: the buccal cavity, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. So I have highlighted the content here, right? I have this option of marking. I have laser pens, right? So I can highlight it. Let me use another color. I can highlight things when I'm teaching. So as a teacher, I have this opportunity to annotate on my screen, make it more interactive for the learners, import images, text, audios, videos, and so on. I also have this opportunity to probably use a marker again and say, please, this is the most important part, right? This is what we have to do. I can start annotating on the screen as well, right? So let me move on to another page. One interesting thing that I want to share is another pen, which is called AI pen. AI pen refers to artificial intelligence pen. So for example, I have quickly drawn a figure of a star here. So referring to the image that I have quickly drawn, it will give me a lot of searches through artificial intelligence that matches to the picture that I have recently made. Any picture that you feel matches to your requirement. For example, I have a star here. Simply click here, drag and drop it on the screen, and the star is there, right? Now, in case I want a better or a better version of this, right? Please have a long press on this, right? And it will give you Google searches. Now, something beautiful I would like to share here is, as a teacher, when I use Google in the classroom, I think I'm really worried. What if there is some inappropriate content that is displayed on my screen while I'm teaching, or there's an inappropriate advertisement or an advertisement, so to say, right? So I would like to mention here is any feature that you use here, be it embedded browser, YouTube, or anything that you use on this platform, is all related the content is all related to education, and it is all ad free. There is no ad here, so you can be rest assured that you can use this content freely, in front of your students. So let me quickly take this star. Whichever star you feel matches your requirement, quickly take it, drag and drop it on the screen. Now you can see I have another star here, right? I want to remove the background color. I've done that as well. So I have my star here. So that's another beautiful feature of this myViewBoard, which is called AI pen, right? Moving on to talk about more interesting features. Here we have Magic Box. I'll quickly run you through it, right? So here, if you can see, there is something called tools. So as a maths teacher, I have an opportunity to use multiple tools like ruler, protector, compass, calculator, right? A dice, etc. So for example, I'm teaching probability, I can use a dice. So I can use all these tools, freely on my viewboard and make maths interesting. I wondered, something like this, when students learn through interactive manners like these and they can see transformations happening, they can see changes happening, I'm sure that's going to be a great experience for all the students. Then we have something called embedded integrated camera. As Shruti mentioned, that now is the time of blended learning and most of the teachers do have to take online sessions. So in case while taking a session, I would like to keep my camera on, simply check here and your camera would be on. With this, I have this opportunity to record my session as well. So if I want to record it for future references, I wanted to record it for things to come in like for any other class, or I want to put it online, have it as a resource for the upcoming lectures and so on. So I can record my session as well. So the third option here, if you see, which is a screenshot option, there's a video camera here. When I click here, it takes me to a platform, to something like this. When I click on this thing, right, my camera, so my recording would get started in another 1 minute. So now you can see that the recording is on. So whatever I say here gets recorded. So you can see it is there. So while I'm teaching, I'm annotating, I do anything on the screen, I can record it as well. And this option here gives me an opportunity to live stream as well. So when I'm teaching, probably through school's portal or through, in case I'm a, individual contributor, I can just live stream these sessions as well on different platforms. It can be YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. So I have this opportunity to connect with a lot of people through one click. So that's another beautiful feature. Apart from this, in the Magic Box, we have features like integrated clips, YouTube videos. So here we have YouTube videos. Again, as I mentioned, all the searches that you would have would be only education based, and that would be, ad free. We have image search. And as some of you mentioned that, taking assessment is used to be one big challenge for all the educators out there. I think classroom option in myViewBoard and an interesting option here gives you an opportunity to take all the assessments and make your students answer the questions, right? So I can create multiple choice questions. I can create different type of questions and make it interesting. So likewise, there are multiple, I would say there are a lot of tools available in this myViewBoard that would help all the educators out there to make the sessions interesting and interactive. Now, if any one of you would be interested to know more about this panel and to know more about how to use it, I would request you to drop in a message, and all the teachers can, if they would feel like, they can also take the certification test. So we do have a certification available for myViewBoard. Right, so any one of you who is interested, please do write to us. We will be sharing the certification link with you. Right now, I've shared the email ID with you in the chat box. So anybody who is interested to take the test and get certified by ViewSonic, we request you to write to us to allow you to give you the access of certification. And that is something you can avail. So right now, you being part of this webinar, this certification would be for free of cost. So it's absolutely free right now. So I think that's an added advantage that we all have, right? Also, we did mention about the certification. So anybody who is looking forward for the certification, we request you to be part of our webpage community and write to us for taking the test. We would be happy to release your certificates to your registered email ID. Right. On that note, I would like to end the session here. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you so much, Shruti. It was, lovely to hear it from you. Thank you so much for your valuable time.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And thanks, Himika, for organizing it. I think everyone must download this software because this is really going to be a cohesive platform for every classroom leader that we might look at. So do let us, even I'll be interested to know if this software is helpful to you or not. So do keep posting about it. If you have any question, if you can know through me, or, Himika's right here. She's added all the links here. So just feel free to join in and reach out to them as required. So we see you next time. Thank you so much, guys, for being part of this. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.